It's being absolutely brutally honest with yourself. We go out of our way as human beings to find excuses. You know what? I'm gonna sleep in. I can do it tomorrow. I can do it tomorrow. Then 5 years passes and you're like, wait a minute, I'm still where I was 5 years ago. I gotta have an honest conversation. I gotta do things different.
It's like, I'm good. The thing that they want to do is more geared towards their fulfillment. So it's okay if I prolong fulfillment. How does one bridge that gap?
It's the whole comfort thing, and you don't want to be so comfortable that you miss out down the road. It's lying to yourself and saying, you know what, I'm good, I'm comfortable. There is no growth in the comfort zone. Do you want to be the best version of yourself? They just live a different way.
You ever feel like the person you're trying to become is clear in your mind, but your current life keeps giving you reasons to stay the same? In this episode, I'm joined by David Fullmer, the founder of Becoming 7, for a conversation about identity, discipline, and becoming the version of yourself your circumstances may not yet reflect. David brings a powerful perspective on what it means to stop waiting for perfect conditions and start taking the next small step, even when life gives you every excuse not to. David, what happens when the person that you're trying to become doesn't match the life that you're currently in?
I'll give you an example. I'm training. I'm trying to get my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Been training for 15 years, and I completely snapped off my rotator cuff training. So I had this goal. I'm going to become a black belt in 2025. That's the way it's going down. You know, I'm just laser focused after coming off other injuries a couple years earlier. And then here my arm blows out and I have to have full rotator cuff surgery. It was terrible. It was the most painful thing I ever went through. And I'm depressed a little bit about it and just kind of really not feeling good. And world class black belt. This guy is an absolute hammer. He's, you know, world champion. He's a good friend of mine, mentor and coach. And we were on the phone. He was checking in on me on my arm, and he said, "Are you training?" And I said, "No, I've only got one arm." And he's like, "So?" And I was like, "Well, I only have one arm." He's like, "Why can't you tie it to your belt? Why can't you put it in your waist?" And he's like, "Let me tell you a story." And he told me about this individual, that same exact thing. So he went with his awkward arm, would tuck his hurt arm into that was healing into his belt and train with one hand. And he was tap dancing. I mean, tap, tap, because, you know, he's got one arm. But he became so strong with the awkward part of his life that when the other part of his life returned, he was elevated that much more, right? And so, I mean, I felt like a dummy. The next day, I tied my arm in, and it was like the emotion was, here I was, one arm, tapping around the dance floor. Yeah, but it was the humility and the understanding that I can always do something to be that self that I'm trying to become. There is always something. And so we trick our minds. We try to tell ourselves, oh, if I just have this, that, and that, and we're waiting for this perfect scenario to take that step. And when we more focus on actually taking some of those micro steps, you're going to do a few micro steps and then a boom, a big step. And that's what happens, is keeping that momentum, keeping that moving towards who you want to become. Even if it's a goal in the gym and you're sick, I always say, go to the gym, walk through the gym with a sweatsuit and just lay on the floor and smell, you know? And my arm was hurting a couple of nights. I just went to the jiu-jitsu club and I literally just laid on the floor, and the sounds and the smell and this environment that I was in, it said, you're here. You showed up. It might not be in a perfect way all the time, but you're showing up. And so that is key, is that I say it in my mind, I put out the noise and say, what can I do? If I want to be this person, what's one little thing? Instead of examining and focusing constantly on, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that, because that's what really trips people up. I say, what do I do have? And can I just go 1 inch further? And then maybe a half an inch. And then pretty soon you find yourself in a rhythm and a flow. You make big strides, and then you get another, you get another kick to the face. 'Cause the understanding is knowing I'm going to get kicked in the face. When you're high on the horse and everything is wonderful, that's great. But I've learned in the back of my mind, you're not always going to be here. So be prepared. What is the next hurdle? What is the next pitfall? And be ready for it because it's coming.
I like that analogy that you're using, that experience that you're using with the one arm and not having the availability of the other arm. Now, when I think about that, I think about people who are making excuses, whether they don't have time, they don't have resources, they don't have confidence, they may not have an idea what that first step is. So, comparing your example to the many different reasons people make excuses, how does one get through that excuse making process, especially when they believe if they don't have what they need right now, they'll most likely fail? Because I believe that fear of failure is probably one of the biggest, obstacles that people have. So how do you manage that? Because I wouldn't want to go into a fight with the example that you're using with one arm. So people who don't have that one resource or don't have that one thing that they feel they need, how do they get over that?
It's being absolutely brutally honest with yourself. Okay. Because if I, when my friend told me that over the phone, it was just the truth. I had no excuse. We go out of our way as human beings to find excuses, right? I mean, we're the only species on the planet that won't grow as high as the water, sunlight we're given, like trees. We won't multiply and replenish the earth like bugs, critters, animals, dogs, fishes. No, no bug wakes up and says, you know what? The bees are like, you know what? I'm just going to cruise today. They're in an ever state of becoming. They are an example to us. Okay. No tree wakes up and says, you know what? I got plenty of water, sunlight, beautiful soil. I'm just not going to grow today. Right. We're the only species that say, you know what? I'm going to sleep in. I can do it tomorrow. I can do it tomorrow. I can do it tomorrow. Then 5 years passes and you're like, wait a minute. I'm still where I was 5 years ago. I got to have an honest conversation. I got to do things different. I got to get uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable is, I remember looking myself in the mirror and saying, no, you're going to do this. And you have that conversation with yourself because we live in a day and age, there's no excuses. It doesn't matter where you live. It's been proven again and again. You are the greatest creation that God created on the planet Earth. You're the greatest creator. You have the most techniques, the most insane machine called your body and your mind. And when you link your heart, mind, and body as one, you are the most insane creator. Okay? But you got to remember, we have an average of 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative, right? So it's maintaining a state of mind that says, I'm not going to give myself excuses. I don't need opinions from all these people. What is the honest truth to myself? If I only have my phone, there's who doesn't have a smartphone? You can elevate yourself by reading. Are you scrolling or are you educating? Are you drifting? I like to say it's like so many people live, and we need social media. I'm not saying you don't have it, but when you're living vicariously through others, meaning you're so fixated and entertained by this person living the life that you want, that you literally don't put the phone down and live the life that you want. You're living through them. You get this little bump high, like, oh, that's cool, that's life. Look at them on the boat. Look at the guy on the field. And you think, wow, that's not me. No, because that individual, what they did is they took their phone, they put it down, and they said, look, what can I do today? What did that person do? Where's the existing shelf space? What's their story? If I told you how many entrepreneurs and people that I wanted to chase, not in a negative way, but I'm like, they can do it, I can do it. It's like the guy that run the first minute mile, the 4 minute mile. That wasn't done until 30 something or whatever it was, 40. And then there's been thousands since. So all the way up, human beings couldn't run a 4 minute mile. So I'm pouring into my mind the people that overcame obstacles, the people in my field, market, and industry that I enjoy and I have talents in. And I say, who's the best? What did they do? And that research drives me. I don't just entertain myself and watch. I'm like, let's go.
It gets me thinking, listening to you, about achievement versus fulfillment. When you talk about being captivated by other people's success, or taking a project or a responsibility and say, I'll do it later, I'll sleep in today. I wonder if some people who are feeling that way feel that they have a certain level of achievement and they're good. It's like, I'm good. But the thing that they want to do is more geared towards their fulfillment, but it's not necessarily a day-to-day requirement or a need or an obligation they have to achieve. So they could, they could kind of brush it off, every other day. So how does one really tackle that difference there to say, I'm good, I'm content, I'm achieving, so it's okay if I prolong fulfillment? Like, how does one bridge that gap?
Well, it's the whole comfort thing. It's you want to drive yourself to be so uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that you're miserable. And you don't want to be so comfortable that that you miss out down the road and are miserable. So you can make yourself be so uncomfortable and be an overachiever and all this, and you miss your kids growing up, and you miss certain things. There's a way through this minutia to balance yourself and really get after it. But it's lying to yourself and saying, you know what, I'm good, I'm comfortable, I like I like this and that. And then so you don't really get in that uncomfortable state because there is no growth in the comfort zone, right? And there's no comfort in the growth zone. And there's either short-term gain and long-term pain, or there's, short-term pain and long-term gain. So this wherever you're at in your life and wherever you're envisioning yourself, understand the front load to that life is very painful in the beginning, but once you get a handle on it, that's when you truly have impact, and that's when you really really enjoy your life to the fullest. Because there's good, better, best. Do you want to be the best version of yourself? Because only a few percentage of people will ever really live to their abilities and talents. And you can, everyone can. There's no difference from a high level human that does amazing things in the market and industry or talents that you want to possess, right? These individuals, they just live a different way, right?
When I think about living a different way, how much of it has to be a want and a desire versus, I don't know, like an expectation? Because what I'm thinking about is, are there goals that some people have and say that this would be a nice to have? And if it's a nice to have, then what is the determining thing that's going to motivate you or inspire you to move towards it? Because I think of a lot of stories where, when you think about a lot of artists, some celebrities, you hear those typical stories where an actor will say, I waited tables, I worked at a gas station, I
Right.
did all these, side jobs, walking dogs until I landed my first big role. I was living on a, one bedroom apartment, or I was living, out of a car. Or you'll hear an artist saying, the same thing. I was struggling, I was trying to sell my music in the streets, etc. There's always this story of a hustle. And sometimes that story of a hustle can lead people towards something that they absolutely need because there's a necessity there, because they're at a point in life where they need to get better. But then there's some people who maybe are doing a little bit better, but this is just a want. So how does somebody in that scope of, I'm doing okay, this is a want, how do they get the same propulsion from it that they would get if it was a need, a necessity, a life or death thing to move towards that vision?
I don't know if they can, because what it takes to push through is to know what you really really want. And that's that conversation. That's why on Motivation Monday, on my 7 days, is it's only one day a week. It's Monday. It's um, the most, one of the most stressful vibrations for the human experience. You know, more people have heart attacks from 8 a.m. to noon on Monday morning than any other day. It's not their job. It's not their weight. It's not their cholesterol level. It's not their ethnicity. So what are you telling me? Well, I'm telling you that Monday morning is the mundane stress. I'm not where I want to be, blah, blah, blah. And so I have people go through exercises and just wipe everything white. What do you really want? And what I've wanted, sometimes I didn't get, and I actually got what I didn't know I really, really wanted. So the key is to have that dream and vision and be working towards an honest, good, wholesome goal with all the energy and faculty of your heart. And as you go along the way, you're going to realize, whoa, this is who I really need to become. And sometimes it shifts, but you're being okay. I call it the law of momentous return. It's like six guys go to climb Everest, right? And they do everything to prepare. They look in their scopes and they look at this crevasse and they're like, all right, we're going to go up the west side. But overnight, while they were hiking, the wind blew a cornice and all this snow. And they're like, they get there, and all of a sudden, the focus is right in front of them. The crevasse, their life is on the line. They're like, we're not going around the west side. We got to go this way. You see what I'm saying? And they're prepared to do that. But there's little things that get thrown in individuals, like these speed bumps, and it's just like, oh well, I wasn't meant to do that, or I'm not going to be able to get there. That's just, and so one is definitely defining what it is your dream life would be, because we have brain tracks. There's all these brain tracks in our heads, and there's vibration when it comes to thoughts, right? We talked about all those thoughts. And so the average person has been told 10,000 times, don't do that, stop that, don't touch that, get over here. No, you can't. And who was it? It was our parents. They loved us. My parents loved me. But we have brain track. Your body, your brain, your subconscious mind has no idea what's fact and fiction. It doesn't understand it. It doesn't understand it. So when you've been told from age 2 all the way up until you leave the house and you're an adult, you've been told 10,000 times, don't do that, stop that, don't touch that. You don't recognize it was a hot stove. Your subconscious mind doesn't know it was a road. You're just a little kid. So when you get out of the dreaming phase and the responsibility now is on you to take charge of your life, and you think, dude, I got this idea. I'm gonna do this, and you feel warm and fuzzy and the energy's pumping through your blood, and then blah blah blah, and then you get a little bit of resistance, and the subconscious mind's like, you can't do that, don't touch that, stop that, don't tease that, you can't, no, 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 no. And it's crazy, and these thoughts take over your mind, and so you're constantly in this battle of like, oh, I want to do this, but I can't, but I can, but I can't. So it's really understanding and shutting off when those negative thoughts. If you get a real strong impression you're supposed to do things, usually people who get through the minutia and get to it is they have the ability to recognize a negative thought and replace it. So science has found that you can't just be Captain Positive. Everything's good. I'm happy. Nothing to see over here. Everything's cool, and they're going from seminar to seminar to seminar. Positive. Wow, let's go. I'm so stoked. And then you have a motivated idiot on your hands. He's motivated to be motivated. No one knows where he's going. What are you doing? I'm going to another Tony Robbins seminar. What are you going to do over there? I'm going to get motivated. And they get home and the hardness comes. And so you got to be motivated, but you have to put everything down what you want to do. And the whole thing with negative thoughts is they found through science that you actually need to have less negative thoughts, not more positive. So it's not going from seminar to seminar saying motivation, motivation. It's actually recognizing, like, I remember a job I was on, and it was like there was all these problems coming, and I was like, you know what? It was like every last little thing I was thinking bad was going to happen. And I started learning over a decade ago that when I have a negative thought, I replace it with a different truth. And if it is an actual real problem that could arise, I think of a positive way that I would overcome that thing. Right. So I find, I went bankrupt after building an amazing business. And then in '08, I'm developing 400 homes over in Makaha in Hawaii that I was a part of. I owned multiple properties. I was a multimillionaire. I was 28, and everyone's like, "Dude, there's this recession." I was like, "What is that word?" Like I didn't even know what a recession was. I was just a hard little grinder. I was grinding, built a masonry business. I was racing motocross full time. I was like recession, and next, fast forward, I lose everything and I'm at rock bottom again, depressed and like, oh my gosh, this sucks. This sucks. So in 2016, I'm facing this same thing with my partnership that was going south, and I was the largest residential roofing company in the state of Hawaii, and I'm crushing it. And here we go again. I'm like, oh my gosh. So every day was like, oh, I'm going down. I'm going to get bankrupt again. I can't believe this. And I never gave up. And then what I started doing is I realized, okay, if I do, I went down and I said, if I go bankrupt again, and I put all the people that went bankrupt 3, 4 times and still succeeded. And then I came up with a plan. And I was like, okay, if I go down this tunnel and then my brain all of a sudden just started working, all the little subconscious little army ants in my brain were like, oh, that's okay because you can do this and you can do that. You could start a business here. You could move your family there. You can take care of this, and I came up with a plan in my mind and I wrote it down, and it never happened. But my vibration was prepared if it did. And it wasn't such a big boogeyman anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's turning around and facing the same and saying, no, that's not true. But if it happens, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I don't want it to happen, but boom. Or if I get a negative thought like this isn't going to work out, I say, yes, it is. And if not, something else will. So I always tell myself, always when negative thoughts come in to try to stop me of being out of rhythm, because this is rhythm. I'm telling you, the whole thing of B7 is keeping your body in rhythm. Your vibration is so important that when I get those thoughts, I always joke and say, don't tell me worry doesn't work. I worry about a lot of things and it never happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then I chuckle and be like, if something does happen, it's for the greater good, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. It was like every obstacle, every success story, everyone I hear, I'm going to have those bad things happen, but it's what makes the character of me is how I face those bad things. So,
I want to talk about the negativity, the things that you take in from external sources that really impact the way you think about yourself and your opportunities. And you mentioned social media. Social media is the big thing. It is a negative impact because it could be distracting, it could be time consuming. It could also be sending you messages that, you're not good enough, and your brain internalizes that. And you also have social influence. You mentioned like what your parents have told you as you're, growing up, what your friends tell you. And one thing I do know from experience is that the sum of your friends really determines the direction and the height of which you could go in life. And what that means is people around you are going to have a personal view on the things that you're doing. They're looking at things from their own perspective. So David wants to run his own business, quit school. Most people would say that is not a safe choice. You're getting a steady paycheck, you're getting security, don't do it. So they're going to come to you and say, hey, do you really think that's a good idea? That's a seed of doubt. Then you're going to have your parents who are like, we raised you to do this. Or again, this is probably not a good idea. It's not the best use of your degree, or not the best use of, all of the parenting and the coaching we provided you. Another seed of doubt. So you have all these external factors that are impacting you from all different areas. How do you scan through that noise? How do you train your brain to not ignore these things, but manage them and realize them for what they are, which isn't your reality, which isn't your future?
well, like my quote, the greatest reality is the one I create. Or sorry, the only reality is the one I create, and the greatest reality I can create is one that impacts humanity. And so what if I want to do elevates humanity in any way, and I see this, and then I'm going after it. And I can tell you, anyone listening to this, you every single high level human and highly successful person, no one understood them. Don't ever expect to be understood. Don't ever expect people to say, "Oh, yeah, you got this." There's going to be your close, like you said, really close people that really believe in you. That's great, but the doubt is part of the process. And and too many individuals rely so much on all those opinions that you just said, and that it's their perception. It's not even a perspective, because true perspective is growth, right? My son wants to be a pro surfer, right? I don't want him. I don't. The chance of him making a living and really making good money, but he loves to surf and he loves MMA. So I sponsor him, and he full time. He fights full time and he surfs full time. But I don't, I'm a little bit of a different parent. I don't try to stop him, but deep in myself, I'm like, well, what is going to become of this? And there's been times that I was like, Gavin, are you sure you want to, you sure you want to do this? And I give, what I mean? I'm that parent's concern. And he looked in my eyes. He says, Dad, I don't care. This is what I want to do. I want to do this. Okay, I'll, go after it. But once someone just completely cuts out the noise and comes to the realization, you are never going to be understood. And if you go around trying to be understood, you're going to be miserable. No one can experience what I'm thinking the way that I experience the smell of a flower, or the bite of a certain meal, or experience everything. Everything's from my own personal little perception of reality, and so is every other person. And so once you start letting the noise inside your brain, dude, that's when the seeds of doubt and confusion come, just engulfing you, like, right? And it's one thing's counsel, like you were saying, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. Well, you better make sure those 5 people are solid human beings, right? So in my book, I talk about, meeting with the gray hairs. I've always had a Yoda meet with. Let me tell you something about Yoda. Yoda doesn't turn anybody away. He's just hard to find. It took Luke going to planet wherever to see Yoda, but Yoda doesn't turn anyone. He's complete wisdom. So I have these gray hairs. They're 72, 73. Some of them billionaires, multimillionaires. Some of them don't have a lot of money. They just have a lot of wisdom that they're super happy. And I meet with them and talk and converse with them. And then some people, I have young people that I counsel and consult. Wednesday night, I was in a correctional facility, and I teach goal setting and life skills to kids that are incarcerated every Wednesday night. And I have a great time with them. But I'm an Obi-Wan Kenobi to them. There are these young Luke Skywalkers coming up. Well, even Obi-Wan's got to go meet with Yoda. Like, I'm not there yet. And so surround yourself with real people who, one thing about really successful people, like true people that aren't like, oh, you come talk to me, you got to pay me 10 grand, I'm super important. Let me tell you, dude, there are so many athletes, people in your industry. If you looked up the top 10 and they were actually amazing human beings, they were the type of 5 people you want to hang out with. You emailed them or find out where they're at, and they're in your community, and you sat down and just listen and ask questions of them. They have zero skin in the game. They just love to educate. You'd be so surprised on how many gray hairs will sit down and give you incredible life advice, and not do it in a way where they're not believing you or this and that. They just give you the different options. And so it's really weighing out what you want to do, but also surrounding, like you said, with real people, people who are going places, and not being sitting still, because it's like a bunch of pigeons. Like, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm going to go party tonight, and I'm drinking tomorrow, and I'm drinking the next day. It's like, oh, I want to hang out with that guy. He's really going. So well, you guys had fun. I don't get me wrong. You take, go to the party and everyone cruising. That's fine. It reminds me of when I was with my son at an X Games, And I got backstage because my friend was racing. This is back when I raced motocross, and we're back there. And Ricky Carmichael, the GOAT, right? I don't know if you've heard of him, but Ricky Carmichael's amazing in the motocross industry. And he wins, and the person's interviewing him, and this chick's like, Ricky, how come you're lapping everybody? How are you passing the top riders in the world? You're just so far ahead of the game, Ricky. And he puts the mic there, and Ricky Carmichael kind of looks a little irritated. And he goes, look over my shoulder. And he goes like this, and that's pit row, where everybody's hanging out. He says, you see all those people? That's my competition. They all invited me to a party tonight. There's going to be girls, booze. There's going to be a rager, and I'm sure they're going to have a great time. You know where I'm going? I'm heading right now straight to my plane. I'm going to get in a jet, and in 6 hours, I'm going to be on my compound pounding whoops and hitting jumps ready for the next battle. And he looked into the camera. I'll never forget. He said, some people think they want it, but they're not willing to do what it takes to cut out what is unnecessary to do what it takes to get it. See, this man was fixated on doing what was necessary. So when a human being is like, this is what I want to do, and you're honest with yourself, you wake up, is it necessary for me to sleep into 8? No. Is it necessary for me to have, go drink every night? No. Is it necessary? Is it necessary? Is it necessary? And once you start saying, that's what tracking Tuesday and B7 is. Am I tracking everything that's necessary and unnecessary? I will tell you one powerful thing. If a human being really says what's necessary and what's unnecessary, then all those phone calls from the pigeons, right? They start to lessen up. You're like, dude, I can't talk to you right now. I'm on a mission. If I told you how many phone calls I get for over the years from, and I have loving friends, I love them, but like, I don't have time to talk to you about not creating anything. Are we moving the football? I don't want to sit around and talk about the play. I want to snap the ball. Let's go. Because that's what eagles do. Eagles only associate with other eagles, right? These pigeons talk to any bird anywhere. They're like, you know what I mean? They're sitting around and they're doing so much unnecessary. Is it necessary for you to eat that much food? Your body, when you don't take care of your body, it doesn't operate correctly. Your mind, it releases certain chemicals in your body that make you perform less. So it's really self-evaluation. What am I doing that's necessary and not necessary? Boy, you start cutting out the unnecessary, you're going to see some heavy movement.
David, you have so much conviction when you talk, and never mind the Star Wars analogy. You just got me at that point as well. What was your turning point? How did you get to this level in your life?
I had an experience that changed the trajectory of my life. There's a bunch of them, and each day of the week has this vibration. So basically, becoming 7 is I took 7 superhuman attributes, and I found out. I studied the human experience. It all started with Sunday because I had to go to church. I'm like, why is Sunday the only important day? And then I used to have Whisper in the Wind Wednesday, where I was like, dude, I'm checking out of social media. This is years ago when social media just started in 2012. I'm like, every day was Whisper in the Wind Wednesday. I'd go in the mountains and just meditate. And then when I heard the thing about heart attacks on Monday, I tripped. I was like, no way. Well, what if every day had this, we were living, and then I was like, wait a minute, the average person has 4,098 grandmas and grandpas. We're all connected. And that vibration over those generations is culminating to this point of my life. Millions of light years for me to have this one life, and inside of my body is thousands of grandmas and grandpas vibration. I was like, this is heavy, dude. What did they experience? And all of us collectively experience mundane Mondays. Why is bad news on Friday? Because you're going to the party. No one cares. When do you get fired? Everybody, dude, if you start firing people on Monday, you would have no society. I'm telling you, would shut down because it would wreck everything. No, bad news is never on Monday. It's always on Friday. But there was a particular experience that really changed my thinking. And I call it, the only thing I know is I don't know. The greatest knowledge I have is that I don't yet have all the knowledge. And once someone really steps into that realm, they go from their life's perception to perspective. And I'll give you an example. So I have this, you see this big giant cut all the way. I cut my bicep in my arm clean in half with a saw. Now, mind you, my fiance is pregnant. It's 2 weeks before my wedding. And I'm helping her brother-in-law, and I made a mistake with a saw. And I'm in shock trying to put my arm back together. I mean, it was terrible. I don't want to get too much detail and sick anybody out. But she runs out of the house. I'm like, babe, don't come to me. I'm going to the ER room. Just come down there in a couple hours. I don't know what's going on. She's like, well, there's blood everywhere. I'm like, no, don't come to me. Stay away. I wouldn't let her get near me. And I couldn't even get in the truck. My arm, I mean, when your arm doesn't work, shock is a real thing. I had PTSD for a while after it, but we're rushing. My brother-in-law is rushing me to the hospital. And we come to the intersection right before the ER, and this big local Samoan brada gets out of the, because the light was red, and he's flipping us off like, what are you doing, you maniac? And he's on my side going this way, and he has the green light. Well, my brother-in-law is like trying to get through the intersection. Guy gets out of the car, the birdie was flying. It just flew the coop. It was like, and he was coming over to the door of my truck because we had to go in between some cars. I thought he was going to lay me out. My window was down. I was like, oh, frick, this guy's going to hit me. And I remember grabbing my arm and setting it out the door and taking my hand off. And I'm covered in blood. And once this paradigm shift was so heavy, this individual went from wanting to pound me out. Think about this. This guy wanted to hurt me and was angry, to stopping traffic. Go, brah, go. The minute he saw me covered in blood, he's like, instantly registered, ER, guy's in a hurry, right? Go. Sorry, I didn't know. Pull into the ER. And these are the two things that happened to me that really changed my life. And I go in, I mean, they didn't ask me for my ID. Dude, I'm telling you, this is the fastest ER trip I ever had in my life. It was like Moses parting the Red Sea. There's like 25 people in there, and all of a sudden they're like, room 3. It was just like the doors. It was incredible. I was like, this is the best service I've ever had at the ER. I can't believe it. And so, and I was lucky. For some reason, my brachial artery was in the path of the saw. It didn't get cut. I would have died in 3 seconds. But it went into my bone, and I was in big trouble. And so they said, hey, there's a very, very special doctor. This guy deals with internal bleeding, and he's the top physician in the county. He's up past Park City, Utah. He's going to be coming down. We just hit him. He's the only guy that can put you together. Sorry, there's no one equipped to deal with this. You're not bleeding to death. You're going to be fine. We're going to give you a little bit of pain meds, blah, 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 blah. So I wait an hour and a half. Then they wheel me up to, the 3rd floor. They've got a team of 6. Everyone's got their rubber gloves, everything. They're ready to go. They gave me some x-rays previously. Here comes the doctor. Anesthesiologist comes over. Hey, Dave, what's your name? I'm like, Dave Fullmer. They're like, what arm are we working on? I'm like, come on, dude, the one with the Band-Aids, the left arm. And then he's like, okay, you're going to go to sleep, wake up, you're going to be fine. I'm like, okay, great. He goes to put me under and stops, says nothing, and wheels me out of the room. Now, my brain went to absolute panic mode. I'm like, because I seen the doctor over looking at the x-rays. Then I see him wheel me out. They're going to take my arm. It was just this negative. I'm in this room, and I've never felt such a level of stress. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be a dad. I have one arm. I'm going to be a nubby one-armed stonemason. And I was like thinking, how can I hold the chisel with my... I'm thinking, they're going to take my arm. It was just all negative fear. About a minute, 2 minutes later, the doctor comes in and goes, hey, Dave, I need to postpone your surgery. I'm like, why, doc? What's up with my arm? He's like, it's not your arm. He said, Life Flight just landed at the hospital. There's a 12-year-old little girl that was in a major accident, and she's holding on for her life. And I'm going to go try to save her life. And I just felt warmth come over me, like, I'm going to be okay. He went and did the surgery. After my surgery, they said everything went well. And he told me, he says, Dave, don't worry. I'm going to put your arm back together. You're going to be able to use it. You'll be a little numb. The nurse that was wheeling me back to my room after the surgery, I just remember her in tears, weeping. And I said, what's wrong? She's like, that's the very doctor we needed for that surgery for that little girl. And I was like, whoa, I just went from my perception of what's going on to the real perspective. And so we have tragedies in our lives. We cut things up. We cut relationships. We hurt people. And there's all these different things. But the blessing of this is I got to see the other side of the fence. I got to see the other side of the unseen. How many times you've been late for something and you don't know if God just kept you out of an accident? You never know. You can't just look at this total perception of this myopic little thing and say, oh, this is all negative and blah, 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 blah. You have no clue. You have no clue. The doctor's really like, because you cut your arm, I'm here to save this girl's life. So what you're telling is my tragedy, my mistake was another human being's triumph. Wow. And so once you get into that realm, and I realize, well, I guess the only thing I know is I don't really know. And then all of a sudden, the arguments with people and all this stuff, you step back and go, wait, maybe I don't know the actual what's going on. Maybe there's a little bit more to this. Maybe I need to breathe. Maybe I need to relax and realize, geez, this is pretty heavy. I have another quick story. I don't want to keep storytelling you to death, but I'll never forget my mom telling me this story. It's so funny. This is the same thing I'm talking about. But my mom and dad get this blow up fight because they're late for a couples therapy seminar at our church, right? Can't get the kids together. They got 9 kids running around. They're fighting. I'm going to divorce you. You suck. I don't care. I should have never married you. Look at all these kids. Life sucks. They're in this dragged down scrap, one of the biggest scraps they ever got in. My mom was telling me. And then finally they're like, we don't even want to go. And then he's like, well, let's just go because we just need to go. And it's like, all right, fine, we'll go. Because I mean, you're going to, obviously we're fighting a ton. We need to go to couples therapy. They're driving down the road. It's a cold, snowy afternoon on their way to the church. And there's this lady walking on the side of the road in the snow past. And my mom says, David, I know we're late. My dad's name's David. David, I know we're late, but can we just give that lady a ride? I don't want her walking alone in the snow. She looks really cold. It's cold. So they back up. It was back in the old days, and they had a station wagon. Hey, do you need a ride? She's like, yeah, I'm looking for this church. And they're like, oh, is it this event? They're like, yeah, I'm trying to go to it. They pop her in. And on the way there, they're like, oh, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And that was the keynote speaker. Her car had broke down. You know, like, and my mom's just weeping. She's like, you're the one we've all been waiting to see? She said, yes, my car broke down and I'm trying to get to the church. I'm late to my own seminar, right? So this terrible fight got the very people to the seminar that needed it. So what I'm trying to say is we are all in this together. The bad and the good are all part of everything, and it has to be we have to have a perspective, not a perception, not a I know it all. And so if you want to know the one thing that changed the trajectory of my life is to always remind myself, the only thing I know is I don't really know. Nope. Long-winded, but
It's
serious.
it's an incredible story. It's an incredible story, and your experience obviously lended to the change that you are now committed to, or that you're living in right now. I can imagine there are some people who can empathize and relate to your situation. They may have had something tragic, something big that happened that forced them to think about things differently. Maybe, though, some of those people still haven't acted on those different things. And there are some people who haven't experienced something really massively tragic, but are just feeling this lack of fulfillment in where they are right now in life. So, regardless of what that instigation factor is, whether it's a tragic situation or whether it's just a realization that I'm not where I need to be, what did what would be a practical step for somebody to really discover, without something tragic happening, really discover that maybe this is a time where they need to start to take account of where they want to be and take action towards that?
Well, one thing is recognizing, okay, that inside this universe, I call it the bank of the universe. There's a big bank up there, and it always balances its books, meaning for every action, there's a reaction. Everything that you're going through that's negative in your life, with perspective, there is an equal and opposite good that is coming your way. Should you approach this obstacle with character, the bank pays tenfold. It's an incredible thing. So people that the minute they realize this, they see dramatic change in their life because they can dream and their body can feel the vibration that something good is coming. And so anytime you're in a bad, and you're right, it doesn't have to be this big, huge life thing. Sometimes it's just these little things. But when those things do come about, your reaction, do you react negative and create more negative situations? Or do you think, you know what? On the other side of this little hiccup in my life right now, there's an equal and even better positive that's coming. I just don't know where it is. And that faith and that belief that something good is going to come of this, something good is going to come of this. I mean, look at the inventions of the plane. Okay. Is it tragic plane crashes? 100%. 100%. But you know how many lives have been spared versus been taken in aviation? Those people gave their lives for the betterment of humanity. So every plane crash, why do they have a box recorder and all dot, dot, dot? Because it's through those tragedies that we've had way more triumph. And once someone can embrace the negative things that happen, not the negativity, but once you can embrace the hardships of life and say, I accept this, God, as my lot in life. I accept it. Bless me with the mindset to see what is the good that will come of it. Okay? Because you know how many plants are negative and have negative and bitter seeds if you eat them, or even poisonous, but they bloom into beautiful flowers and fruit. And
Mm-hmm.
so you cannot get through this life without embracing the hardships. And what I mean by that is some of the wisest men and women that have ever walked this earth have had ability to not be overly happy and almost where it's like fake, blah, 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 and don't get negative and down. They embrace at one with themselves and they say, look, this is part of the process. I accept where I am. I'm okay with it. And I know each day I'm going to get better and better. This is okay. I'm where I am. And once you are super honest with yourself and take accountability, you're like, I'm exactly where all the things and decisions I made to get me right here, because extreme accountability is heavy. There's no one listening to this show that can't really get with a Yoda or an Obi-Wan Kenobi. You'll say, okay, why are you here in this bad situation? And you start taking notes. Okay, well, what did you do a year ago? Okay, what did you do last month? What did you do last week? What time do you wake up? And then and then all of a sudden you just, here you go. And then you're like, well, me, that wasn't me. Like, and then once you raise your hand and you're like, dude, I've totally been a Barney. I'm screwing up. I'm not doing stuff I'm doing all this unnecessary stuff. And then like, wow, extreme accountability. And then these little teeny wins start coming. And once you live with true perspective and you've got that on point and you're like, I'm embracing exactly who I am and where I'm at. And there's just only forward from there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's huge growth happens. Huge growth.
I really like what you said earlier on. You talked about, you know, growth is uncomfortable, comfort zone is comfortable. And, you know, we have to have this faith, this ability in ourselves to say the desire to change has to be greater than the comfort of staying the same. And we have to figure that out and say, do I really want this life, this situation that I'm in to remain the same? And I love the fact that you identified what are the things happening in your experiences, good or bad, and are you learning from them? Because I tend to look at things, David, the same way. If something goes bad, the first thing I've trained my mind to think about is what did I learn from that? Because your brain doesn't know. It doesn't determine if a situation is bad or good. Your consciousness does that. Your brain just sees it as a situation.
100%, 100%.
So your consciousness then puts a label on it, puts an emotion on it, and then your brain then decides to say, hey, your conscious says this feels good, so we're going to continue to do this. Or your conscious said, this is really, really bad, so I'm going to protect you in the future and avoid this from happening again. So I think there's some internal stock that we really have to take in ourselves and really look at how are we perceiving the situations that we're going through, and can we extract goodness from it? So you've extracted some goodness from the work that you're doing. You mentioned it a few times. I want you to dive into it a little bit right now, which is becoming seven. What is that? Take us through that.
Well, explaining, growing up in a religious family, I was always mad at Sunday. I mean, in my family, if you weren't up for church, my dad was throwing a cup of water on you. When you got 10,
Yeah.
13 kids running around, you don't have time to sit, wake up. It's time for church. It's like you're getting a 16 ounce glass of water thrown on your bed in your face if you don't get up. So, so yeah, I mean,
I remember the Sunday school bus too. I remember
yeah,
Sunday mornings
yeah,
my mom woke me up and I had to eat breakfast quick and I was waiting
yeah.
outside for the Sunday school bus.
So that was tattooed in my head, and then I told you about Wednesday, and so my dad worked for Stephen Covey. He wrote the books Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and so at a young age, it was like mindset, and we're talking in the early '80s, and I was listening to Jim Rome tapes, cruising around with my dad, and it really had a huge impact on my life. And I was like, dude, and I always wonder why is this sibling really successful, and this sibling same house, same environment, and they're just mid. They're duds. I'm like, what's up with the dud and the legend? I want to be a legend. Like, I want to learn from this. I don't want to be a dud. And so that just sent me on this journey. And then Wednesday, and then I told you about Monday. And so I was like, what if the human experience, we were all experiencing similar emotions on the same days of the week? And it was true. And it came to me over about a decade and a half of me just running business and entrepreneurship and failing and winning and fail, 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 win, fail, fail, fail for win and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so that's when I went on this journey and Motivation Monday. And it was like people don't have their why figured out. So basically, what I did is take each day of the week and I attach a superhuman attribute to that week because those are the stresses that the human experience is going through. So starting out Motivation Mondays is Monday, and then that's basically your why. How do you figure out why are you on the planet Earth? Why did God put you here? What are you doing? Like all of that. I listen to Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. I listen to all the Stoic philosophers. I just fill my brain with book reading, listening to books. I don't actually read because of my left eye, but I pour my mind and it's possible, it's possible, it's possible. But it's like fueling up your gas tank. If you just keep fueling, I told you about the motivated idiot. The gas is just going to spray out. It's like, dude, you're over motivated. It's time to get out on the road. So I get out on the road, and then Tuesday's Tracking Tuesday. So it's a day that we track ourselves. God gave us two ears, two eyes, and one mouth. So we perform a miracle. We shut up and listen, right? But then we speak up when we should. The greatest salespeople on the planet Earth, the most highly effective people, are what they call an ambivert. This is a study done at Harvard. It's not an extrovert and it's not an introvert. You would think he was an extrovert. It's not. It's actually an ambivert. It's an extrovert that knows when to shut up and an introvert that knows when to speak up. And so Tracking Tuesday is my day of the avatar. I step outside of my body and say, how am I communicating with friends? I'm listening. I'm listening to myself. And I really track my thoughts. And I'm so intentional about how am I showing up on the planet universe, right? How am I showing up on this planet in the universe? And so I track that, right? Then moving on to Wednesdays, Whisper Wednesday. I usually go on a 8 mile march either on the beach or in the woods. And it's just meditation, no social media, only like symphony, organized music. If you were to get two silos and you spray water, and in this silo you play hardcore metal music, and in this side you play symphony, beautiful organized symphony, and you freeze the water. When you take the snowflakes out of the bottom, the icicles, you put them under a microscope, the organized beautiful sounds are perfect snowflakes. Perfect. Actual perfect. These ones are all Kapakai and busted up. So if you're not in a good vibration, what are you going to be doing in your life? You need to center your mind, your thoughts, your dreams, and connect it with your heart. And you need to be in an organic environment. Take your shoes off and walk in the dirt. Just sit next to a tree. Well, what do you want me to do? Do nothing. Silence. If you were to go interview doctors, airline pilots, first responders, and you say to a doctor, hey, did you ever make a decision because you had this intuition? And dude, you might as well just step up. It's going to be a mile long. All of them. But because they have they they have the heightened sense of responsibility. It's on their shoulders. People are going to die. People are going to suffer. People are going to get hurt if I don't step up. Well, when are we going to step up in our lives? If we don't learn intuition, we can't rely on everybody else. There's little whispers you're going to get, no one else is going to get, right? In this morning time in the woods or anywhere in an organic environment is so important. Did you know that on leaves they have these little pores that absorb the moisture in the morning? You know what opens up those pores is the songs of birds. How incredible that is.
Didn't know that.
The calmness of the morning.
Mm.
Yeah. So if I'm in an organic environment, we're organic. I'm going to go to the earth. My body, I'm the same, made up of the same things trees and all these plants and stuff are made of. And when I get into that environment and I shut off the electronic noise and the fast pace of blah, and I just relax, listen, what do? My pores absorb. They open up to the whisper in the wind. I can feel the wind. I can hear it in the trees. And all of a sudden I feel inspiration. I hear words like, it's okay, Dave. You're going to make it. Good things are coming. And I just meditate, and it's incredible. And that's that really half day during the week to just breathe. We got this. Then you go on to Thursday. When's Thanksgiving? It's on Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday. Okay? An army of lions led by a sheep will always be defeated by an army of sheep led by a lion. And the answer to that dichotomy is attitude. And your attitude is almost the same word as gratitude. Okay? So when I have an attitude of it's possible, it's possible, it's possible. I mean, how many stories we've seen? I have a nephew who's born with no arms and no legs. He's the happiest kid on the planet Earth, but my brother never told him he didn't. I mean, he's going to figure out he has no arms and no legs when he sees around. He's different. He's like 7 years old right now, 6 years old. But you should see this kid get on his skateboard with his little nubs. He jumps on his little cart and he's racing around and he's picking on his little brothers. And I mean, he's got little nubs and he flies around the room. He's never told him nothing's possible to him. The little kid's an animal. And so there's all these limitations we give ourselves, and we fail to say, I am blessed. I am breathing. I got up today. Look at the stars. Look at this one person that believes in me. Look, right? And you could just start counting. And everyone I come in contact, Thankful Thursday. Yesterday was Thankful Thursday. It was tip day. It was, you've got this day. I ran into so many people because my intention is to look out for someone that needs to be told, thank you, you've got this. And it just boosts my energy. I'm pumped. And that runs me into today, right? And that is one of the most gnarly. So you're in this heightened state of gratitude and your vibration, and you understand I've got to live with perspective. And all these days are in line. I'm telling you, you can't live B7. I have a 28-day kickstart guide. You can't leave it for a month and forget it because you have 2,000-year-old brain tracks Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You're already living half a B7. Once you attach a day to it, that's how you memorize things. That's the art of memorization, right? So many leadership programs out there. Oh, 4 steps to this, 5 steps to that, 3 steps to this. It's like, okay, when do I hit the stairs? Next thing you know, you get down the stairs and hit your head on the railing. Like, I don't need to tell anybody about 7 days. You guys, you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
Right? So you go into Friday. What was the day as all of us collective human beings? When did we get $1 from mom and dad or grandpa to buy a little ice cream bar in elementary school after? We've been trained. Like I told you, when do we get our bad news? Friday. When, why? Because, hey, Billy, we're going to have to let you go. Oh, man, I'm getting fired. It's like, yeah, we got to let you go. You got to have your stuff out by the end of the day. And he's like, and then his buddy calls him, hey, you going to be at the party tonight? And he's like, I guess life ain't so bad. It's Friday. So you're off of gratitude. You have a heightened state of joy. You're going into the week and another week's over. And what hits you? Forgiveness. Forgiveness Friday. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful emotions you can exercise. Forgiveness. Not forgetting. I'm not telling for people to forget things, but 100% forgiveness, letting it go, okay? Because my vibration and my soaring to new heights, I'm not going to sit around and gossip and, oh, it's so not did to me, and I got to do to you, and what you vibrate on this guy, like all day long, just spread my wings. Say, I love you. I'm an eagle. How you doing down there, pigeons? I hate you, Fullmer. You suck. I love you too. You know what I mean? And it feels so good. I just let it go. I love you. I stole your bike. That's okay. Keep it. It was so funny when I was 17, I moved to Hawaii. I never experienced anything like this. I'm sitting on my porch and I'm like, where's my slippers? And then we didn't have a dryer, so we'd hang our clothes. Well, my boxer briefs were gone too, and my slippers. And I see this little kid, Cepho, on his beach cruiser, because I'm the only white boy in Haula in this town. It was like they called me Howley Boy. And and I really got it, man. These guys were always chasing me and beating me up. But this kid, Cepho, he's got his beach cruiser. He's good. Hey, Howley Boy. He flips me the bird. He's like, hey, Howley Boy, you like my underwear? And I'm like, you took my freaking boxer briefs. He's got my slippers that are like hanging off the back of his foot because he's like 8 years old, and it was just, I laughed at it. I was pissed at first, but I laughed at it. But looking back at it was just like, I could have lost my mind, but I was just like, I don't want him back anymore, so it doesn't matter. But the whole point is like, the minute you gain the art to forgive and really let things go, not forget, but really let it go and love the person that has used you. Just, you don't have to let them do it again. You don't have to be around them. You don't have to forget. But once you have that vibration of love, dude, you become superhuman. I'm telling you, superhuman. Because that stress and pain of everyone's doing, you did this to me, blah. That vibration keeps you, and then all of a sudden a thought about your goal comes up, and you're like, and then it shuts that receptor off. But once you free out like an eagle and you're soaring way up there, everything's possible. But Dave, your car just got stolen. That's okay. There's more cars. Oh, but your business you just lost 100 grand. That's okay. Money doesn't exist. There's more 100 grands. You know what I mean? You just start letting things go and being fluid and just letting it go. And so then you go into Saturday, you're on a real bumper, right? And satisfaction Saturday. Too many of us are stressed out on Saturday. We don't take time to have memories with the ones that we love. So I always say, look, the only reason I make money is the 3 M's. The only reason I make money so I can have a moments. So in the end, I have memories. No one on their deathbed's like, oh, dude, I wish I had another Porsche and a boat and the Cayman Islands and that, 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 that. Look, it's all staying here. It doesn't exist. It's just a tool. I make money so that in the end, when I have all my loved ones around me, I'm like, son, remember when we went and rode dirt bikes and we laugh and joke about all these wonderful times that we had and moments. And that's why I'm seeking after the treasures of the earth. What it can be my impact. How many times have you heard someone, oh, dude, that guy's got FU money? That guy's, you know what I say? Wow, that individual's successful. He has love you money. What does that mean, Dave? What impact can he have on humanity? Oh, he's helping with children. He's building this. You mean that guy? Why is it that all these multi-billionaires on their deathbed are scrambling? They're like, dude, I'm heading to the other side. I'm going to give all my money away. But what did they do along the way? You know, it doesn't, you can't let it be too late. When your time's up, your time's up. You get one life. I had my kids at the correctional facility on Wednesday. We all stood up and we said 3 times out loud. We yelled it in the cell. I have one life to live. 3 times. You have one life. Everyone listening to this, today is the day to start. Right now, this second. There's no perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time. Today's the day. And we start and we go. We get moving forward. But that's Satisfaction Saturday, making sure you're having fun with the ones that you love and you're putting life in perspective and really understanding that, you know what, put your golf game away, uncle, and go hang out with your kids or bring them to the golf course. Yeah, you're not going to shoot a perfect sport, but who cares? Your kids are going to laugh. You're going to have good memories. Moving on to Sunday. It's the last day. We're running out of days here. And, you know, I told you about Sunday. For me, it was like church, church, church. Well, I told you about I've been in jiu-jitsu. If you were to say, hey, Dave, you've been in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu for 15 years, hundreds and thousands of hours on the mats. What have you learned? And everyone's listening. They're like, oh, he learned how to do the Kimura or the arm bar or take someone's back and be able to be a good fighter. No, no, no. The greatest lessons I've learned is this, to tap out, the humility, to submit my will to another man that is about to break my arm. I have 2 choices. I can either go to sleep, lose my ankle, lose my arm, or I can just do this. And he lets me go. It's that simple. There's a UFC, Conor McGregor's fighting Max Holloway tonight. Out here, you know, Max Holloway's from the west side of Oahu. He's our Hawaii boy. Everybody's rooting for Max, boy. And I can tell you right now, someone in that fight tonight might be doing this. And then who wins? The other guy wins. Well, too many times in our lives, we try to do it without a higher power, without God. The reality is, a man stands tallest on his knees. When I wake up on Sunday morning and say, God, more than just Sunday morning, but the real meditation day of my belief and my understanding that I can't do this life without a supernatural power. There is something in that universe. There's something up there that loves me. I've seen miracles. We all have seen, holy smokes, that was a miracle. Where does that come from? I believe our ancestors are watching us every day, interested in our success, love, and passions. And when we get into that state and put all the minutia aside and we tap out, say, God, I can't do this without you. I'm tapping out. I'm submitting, and it's Supplication Sunday, to submit to God, submit to a higher power, and realize there's something greater, bigger, and amazing, bigger than you. And that entity, that God, is trying to push you to your greater good. And that, my friend, is the 7-day rhythm. And you just keep doing it. It doesn't stop, and it changes along the way, but any culture, any people can do it. Because I don't care if you go to Switzerland or Africa or America or Texas, you're going to wake up on a Monday and a Tuesday, and you know what I mean? You're not getting out of B7. And so once you memorize it, you're stuck. I mean, I go into the bank, and the girls are like, Thankful Thursday, Fullmer. What are you grateful for, guys? I mean, I yell it in the bank. Everybody in the line's like, who's this crazy dude? What is Thankful Thursday?
Yeah.
No.
You've made a very, not maybe very, very complex, but you've made the ability to remember these steps easier. You've equated it to something that everybody goes through, which is the days of the week. So I love that. And these are significant. As you were talking about each of them, I was thinking about Motivation Monday. Okay, what would my day look like? I was thinking about Tracking Tuesday, Whisper Wednesday, Thankful Thursday, Forgiveness Friday, Satisfaction Saturday, Submission Sunday. Like when you think about all of those days, you really get to a point where you're like, okay, this makes sense. It takes these very large ideas that we have, these feelings, these emotions, these thoughts that we go through, and you're able to categorize them in these days to say, okay, I'm going to focus on Wednesdays getting out in nature, because I feel some people really struggle with being one with nature or going out for walks or taking in, some self care moments. But if I could say, hey, I'll designate it to Wednesday, that's it. Just give myself one day to do that. Then it's an accomplishment. It's moving in the right direction, and you're not overwhelmed by the 7 days of when you're going to fit it in. So I really love that, because I think from a cognitive standpoint, David, this really helps people categorize some of the things that they struggle with doing and executing in their weeks, in their day-to-days, because everybody leads busy lives. So I love this because it really simplifies it, makes it easy, and really makes it memorable. So thank you for the time, not only just creating it, but explaining it with the level of enthusiasm that you have. So all that being said, I think there's something here that I really want you to answer for me and for anybody listening. The transformation to get to where they were before listening to this conversation to getting to the point where they could really execute B7. If you're to give them advice to take that first step, what would that advice be?
Well, I mean, if it in regards to B7, it would be to read the book. It's very, very, very insight. It's a short read. I'm not some loquacious. I'm not a big writer, right? I just put my story and my life down and had it put down. And then I have a 28-day kickstart guide, which I can send to for free for anyone on your podcast. I just want to help push the movement. But once you take these crazy voices in our head and just live with these simple intentions each day of the week, if it's so simple, and just start out a little bit at a time. You know what? I'm gonna wake up. I have a thing called an AM PM game. Figure out your AM PM game. What's your schedule? When can you get up early before everyone else? One of the most common denominator among high level humans is an AM game, is a real early start for the day. And just work on one of these little intentions each day of the week. And pretty soon you're going to be like, wow, how did I just time travel? I call it time traveling because I have this crazy little personal thing in my mind. I got all these gerbils in my brain, and they're like, how can we live three lives in one? And I thought of Kobe Bryant. His story is like he was getting up at 3 a.m. He had done two training sessions before his fellow athletes even hit their first, right? And we've been told we shifted our sleep habits when they screwed up the food pyramid. Humans aren't meant to sleep 8 hours, but they can sleep five, have a break, sleep two. There's some of the greatest inventions and everything. You're from Benjamin Franklin to all of them. They were in the wee hours where they would sleep in these, a 4 or 5 hour block or 3 hours. They were all different, and then they wake up. And so it's how you sleep, not and getting on top of that, your rest, your body, and all those different things. But just starting with a simple intention. It's so easy to memorize, and as you just take one little day at a time, write it down. Motivation Monday. Do something that motivates you today. You don't have to map your whole life out. You should, but if you're not ready for that, that's fine. What's something that motivates you? Who's someone that is an amazing person to you? Listen to their story, that it's possible. And then Tuesday, same thing, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And boy, man, you live that for 2-3 weeks. I don't have, I mean, these kids, I remember I was on my second time going to the correctional facility, and all the kids knew. I said, "What?" And I was like, "What's today?" Whisper Wednesday, because I go on Wednesdays. And I was like, "Wow, this it really hit me." It was like, this thing is just so it's so part of us. It's already our vibration. And like you hit the nail on the head. It's like, how do I organize all these things I'm supposed to be? It's like, well, wait a minute. Now I know. Here's seven is a symbol of completeness. God created everything that we have within 7 days. So what if we just took the seven most incredible superhuman attributes now, and that's the intention of the day. Next thing you know, you're on week 2, week 3, week 4, and you're time traveling. You're like, wow, I just got so much done. That's heavy. I'm listening more. I'm speaking up more when I should. I'm forgiving more. I'm happier. My vibration's better. Spending more time with my kids. I forgave Uncle Johnny. I remember I instituted B7 in my roofing company, and we were about 2 months deep. All the managers set an intention every day. I went through everybody's the CRM and emails and everything. And I remember a kid pulling me aside, and he's just weeping, my sales guy. And I'm like, dude, what happened? Did someone die? I'm like, bro, what happened? This cool kid. And he's like, no. And it's on Friday. He's like, I wanted to wait till Friday to tell you. He said, I have been holding on to this thing that happened to me by my uncle when I was a young man. And I have hated him and hated him for so many years. He said it took the third Friday. He's like, it took the third Friday. And I'm free, Dave. I forgave him. He's like, I'm free. He didn't say anything about the uncle. He just said, I'm free. And I remember him embracing me and just holding me. And he had a 40% increase over the next 90 days of his sales that he did the previous year. So he had almost doubled his sales by letting it go. You see? Remember, eagles don't soar with dirty wings. What bird do you see with dirty wings? I'm only going to fly when I want to fly. I'm only going to fly if I'm about to die. I'm going to fly today. I'm just going to just peck I'm going to peck and poop right in the same spot all day long. And then the eagle's clean wings is soaring. It's like, where's the next challenge?
Yeah. That's
Anyway,
awesome.
that's it.
That's awesome,
I
David.
love
I really appreciate everything you brought to the table. This is the part of our conversation where I turn it to you to read the letter to your former self. So this is what David would say to a younger version of himself, knowing everything that he knows today. So floor is yours.
Dear David, remember to smile more. Dear David, remember to be less judgmental of others. Never forget that the weakness that you see in others is the weakness that you see in yourself. Dear David, remember that every breath, every second is a gift from the heavens. Never forget that you'll never get yesterday back, but there's always a brighter tomorrow. Remember to hold your loved ones close, for you know not when they'll slip away and give up the ghost and fleet through your fingers. Remember every day that you breathe is an opportunity to serve humanity. Remember to have fun, but not so much fun that you skirt your duties. Dear David, and of all, remember, you are loved. You're loved by a God. You're loved by your ancestors that have walked before you, and you will do amazing things. I love you, future self.
David, that was fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your stories and your heart as well. Really appreciated this conversation today.
Thanks for having me. Aloha, brother.